Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to do just a single ribbed sock for an adult. This one is a small adult, but I do have them for a normal female, and I do have the pattern wrote out for a men's size as well. You can actually get the written PDF at Cindy Woodcrafts or premiumknittinglooms.com, sorry. What you're going to need for this is one of two looms. This is a 29 peg loom. This is a 30 peg loom. And they're both 1/2 inch gauge. If you choose to use a different gauge, you can use any gauge you want. This pattern's just wrote up for the 1/2 inch gauge. If you do use a larger gauge, like the 3/4, you may need to do more rows, and your sock won't be quite as thick. Now the yarn I am using, which I've used it for this one too, it's actually Line Brand Unique. I don't know what the exact color of this one is, but this one is like large child or small adult size. And I've done this one on the 28 peg loom because I just got my 30 peg loom in. And they don't come marked like this one. This one you can get just as a special. I don't know how long they're going to offer that, but I've just marked this up like this just to keep track for myself. I know this ends the heel. I know this marks my pattern. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to talk about the construction of the sock for just a moment. The sock is knitted one piece from the top down to the toe. So we're doing the cuff. The cuff, I'm just doing a short cuff on this one. It's 10 rows for this cuff. This one right here is actually 20 rows for the cuff, and I prefer this a lot better because then you can roll it down. It's just a really nice cuff. You can see the ribbing really good when you flip it over. Okay, so we're going to do the cuff, then we'll work the heel, then we're going to do the body, then the toe. Now if you need to adjust the size, the only thing different you do is you make the body part longer, which I have directions on how to do that in the PDF, of course. I really like the chain cast ones, so I'm going to go through it kind of fast. I have individual videos for each step, but the chain cast one, you make your slip knot behind. Alright, I always start with the black peg. That's how I have this loom marked out. You're just going to do your chain cast on all the way around. So when you get to that first peg, you're going to put your loop on it. So that first peg will have two, but when you come to them, you'll use them as one. And I actually like to take that yarn and pull it down to the inside so that it's out of the way. Row 1, I am just going to E-wrap. It's really up to you. You can get right into your rib stitch pattern if you would like, but I am E-wrapping it. And let me see, I'll just do this real quick. You go all the way around the loom back to your starting peg. Then you're going to go all the way around the loom again, taking that bottom loop over the top loop. Your first round is done of just E-wrap. Now we are going to do our cuff. Now there's a quick note I'm going to make. This loom is a 29 peg loom. The pattern can be very easily converted to the 30 peg loom because, as you can see, it's actually the same loom. All they've done is done 30 pegs instead of the 29 just to make it even. And they're actually going to start doing that with a lot of the odd number peg looms to make it easier to convert patterns. So for this one, since it's 29 pegs, I'm going to explain my reasoning here. Think of this is your heel part, and this is the rib pattern that's going to be on the top. So you're knitting it like this. You want all of this to be even and symmetrical. So here's our starting peg. We're going to purl, E-wrap, all the way around. But these two pegs, which are the very back part of the heel, we're going to do the same stitch on them. So whatever you're on, if you're on a purl, do a purl. If you're on an E-wrap, do an E-wrap. So it'll be purl, E-wrap, purl, E-wrap, purl, E-wrap. Both of these are going to be purled. Then E-wrap, purl, E-wrap, purl, all the way around. The reason to do this is so that everything lines up. You want the lines on the side of the socks to be symmetrical, and that extra row, you can't really tell a difference. Now if you have it inside out, this actually knits inside out, but even if it stayed like that with a flatter spot, that goes up the back of the sock so it doesn't look awkward or out of place. So I'll start this for you, and then what you're going to do is you're just going to do 10 rows of this. If you're doing a bigger sock, you're going to want to do 20. So our first one, we are purling, and this is just a single rib stitch. E-wrap, purl, E-wrap, purl, E-wrap. Now I've marked these so I know when I get to them both of those are going to be purled. And now however you mark them, you can mark them with rubber bands, you can mark it with fingernail polish, you can mark it with a Sharpie, you can mark it with a crayon. However you mark it, just make sure you know how it's marked. If you're able to get a pair of pliers and pry the pegs out, or if you purchase this loom as is, that's why these two pegs are like this, is so that that's already marked. Alright, so you're going to go back to your first peg, and then you're going to do 9 more rows, so you're going to do 10 rows of this rib stitch. Alright, this video is going to show you how to do the heel. It's a decreased row heel for a sock, and this one I'm doing on the 29 peg slipper sock loom. It's also the Preemie hat loom by Cindy Wood Crafts. You can find it on premiumnamelooms.com. Link is in the description below. Now the way I do my heels is they are only worked on half the loom. I like to do mine with an even number of pegs. So this is a 29 peg loom. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pegs that we're working the heel on. These two are marking for a pattern to go with this. It also marks the middle of the heel, so if I just have a couple pegs marking the heel out, I know which side the heel is on. Okay. To do your heel, you're going to E-wrap peg 1 through 14, and then 14 back to 1. You're going to do 4 rows. 4 rows. We have done the 4 rows on just the heel, and this is what that looks like. Now to start with the decreased part of the heel, which is going to give it its shape. There are different ways to do this, but this is the way I like to do. Go to peg 14, take the loop off of it, and put onto peg 13. Now we're going to E-wrap to peg 13. So once we take the yarn off of the pegs, for the rest of the decreased part of the heel, we no longer use that peg. So there's going to be 2 loops on that one. We're going to take all these off all the way back to peg 1. Now we're going to take the yarn from peg 1, put onto peg 2. Push all that down. E-wrap back to peg 2. Now we're going to take the yarn from peg 13, put on peg 12. We're going to repeat this pattern going back and forth until we have 3 empty pegs on both sides. After you have decreased so that there are 3 empty pegs on each side, now I have to pick them up. And when we do this, we're not just going to pick up the empty pegs, because if you do that you'll have a hole on this side and a hole on this side. So we're actually going to put a loop on this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. We'll do the same on this other side. So it'll be 5 pegs you're putting loops on. which what I do is I pick up the loops from down here and put on the loom. If you don't get the exact right ones, that's okay, as long as you have loops on all of those pegs. Typically that's good enough. Oops, that one came off. There we go. See, to the first and that last peg right there will have double loops on them, but we're just going to treat them as one. We're going to go to this other side and do the same thing, which in the PDF has a picture with little arrows pointing to which ones you pick up if you still need some help with that. There we go. This is what it looks like when all the pegs are picked up. We've got our 15 rows of our cuff. We have done our heel. We've picked it up. Now we got to do the body of the sock. This one is actually only going to be 20 rows long, sorry. But what I do is the heel, this is being knitted inside out, by the way, but we've got the heel done. So now we just got to do this pattern from here to here. Well, from here to here, which I like the bottom to be flat, so when you do an E-wrap and you flip it inside out, it actually makes a nice little flat pattern. And then we're going to stick with the rib stitch. We want it to match up on the front. That's why we've got our pegs marked. So we're not, all of these ones back here, except for that last one we're going to purl. The rest of these we are going to E-wrap. So you're going to E-wrap to peg 14. Peg 14, you're going to do a purl stitch, and then you will get right back into your rib pattern to peg 1. So it's going to be a purl, E-wrap, purl, E-wrap all the way back. Now the reason we are doing it like this is if we don't do these last two ones, then the rib pattern is going to stop like right here. We do those ones, it brings it down more on the side of the foot as well. And once that is done, this was peg 1, it was purl, and I went ahead and just E-wrapped these last 3 pegs to get us back to that original peg. I'm going to take, now we just, all the ones that were E-wrapped, are going to take and go ahead and knit those off. Now you got to remember, some of these are going to have 2 on them, and that's fine, they're supposed to. You do this all the way until every single peg has just 1 loop on it. At that point you're going to do 19 more rows like that, and then we will get to our heel. Now on that last row, only thing you got to remember is when you do that last row, stop at the blue peg, that first blue peg on this side, peg number 1. Don't go to peg, was this 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't go to peg 4. If you want, you can stop at peg 1 on your next trip, just because this video I'm going to show you how to do the toe of a sock. And the way I like to do the toe is actually to do it the same way you do the heel. So of course we use just half the loom, which that's what these blue pegs are, to do the toe. We're going to E-wrap peg 1 through 14, and then back to 1. We're going to do 4 rows. After the 4 rows, you're at the point where we will start decreasing the heel. And how we do that is, right now your yarn should be coming from peg 1. So peg 14, take the yarn from peg 14 and put onto peg 13. We're going to push all these pegs down on the heel part and E-wrap to peg 13. going to take and knit everything off, bottom over the top, all the way back to peg 1. Now peg 1, we're going to put onto peg 2. Push all this down, we're going to E-wrap to peg 2. And we're going to keep doing this pattern until we have 3 empty pegs on each side. Once you have decreased 3 on each side, now we need to pick those up. So, and what we're going to do is we're not just going to pick up the 3, we're actually going to pick up the first and the last as well. And in the PDF, there is kind of a close-up photo to give you an idea of which ones to pick up. If you don't pick up the exact right ones, as long as you have something on all of those pegs, and it should fill in fine. So you just do your best, and sometimes some of these, just depending on the tension you use, might be a little tight. But this just gives you an idea. That first one and that last one, the extra ones you picked up, will have 2 loops on them. Going all the way. Do the same on both sides. There we go. Okay. At this point we are actually ready to do our cast off. And what you do, you want to wrap the loom. Okay, once that toe is all picked up, we are going to do just 1 row to get us back to this peg 1. And you're going to do the row the exact same pattern as you have been for the rest of the bottom part of the sock. So you're going to E-wrap the blue pegs except for this last one. Then you're going to do your purl stitch and your E-wrap to make the rib stitch. Okay, so you got your yarn back at your peg 1, and at this point we are ready to close the toe off. So what you want to do is you want to wrap the working yarn. We'll do it 3 times around and then cut. For this next part, you can use a tapestry needle if you want. Honestly, I prefer to just use my hook. But what we're going to be doing is we got to get this side and this side to kind of fold up and close up. We're closing this right here. So we're going to be pulling this over to this side. To do that, we're going to take our working yarn, we're going to pull it through the peg it's coming from. And we're going to go over to the other side, pull it through. You're going to take both of those off. We're going to be weaving back and forth and picking up the pegs as we go. So we're going to go to the next one. Just go ahead and pull them off the loom as you get to them. And we're going to go back to this side. And like I said, we're going to do this all the way till we get to the last off the loom. Depending on how tight you pulled it when you did, you're going to have like this big loopy weird hole here. So here is our little magic trick. Let me zoom this in a little closer so you can see. You just hold it and you pull. You pull that and it's going to pull everything closed. And there you go, your toe is done. Now all we got to do to finish up this sock is, I always pull it like tight and then kind of stretch it out, just so I think it helps it to shape a little better. But we're going to take our crochet hook and kind of weave this in through a couple. I like to kind of move it away from that edge of the toe before I tie it off, just because I find I find it a little bothersome if I have a knot right on the end of the sock. So I just move it over a couple rows and then move it down some and then just do a little knot. But I'll do that here with you so I could show you. Alright, so I moved it over and moved it down just a bit. Instead of pulling the string all the way through, I'm just going to make a little loop. I'm holding this really, really tight. Of course, this sock is being done inside out. Normally, you would flip your sock inside out and then weave all these ends in and tie them off. And you want to hold this when you tighten that so that it doesn't let loose and pull all this tight. I'll weave the end from it through just a couple more before I cut it. And that's really the only knot I do in this entire sock. And now we've got this to weave in. And again, you don't want this up by the top of the cuff, so I'm just kind of going, weaving it down some, and then I'll just cut it. Once the sock is flipped inside out, there you go. There are your socks, and this is a small adult size. Now I do have conversions for an adult this size, which I wear like a size 8 shoe, and this fits me perfect. And then I have a men's size as well, and all of those are in the PDF, which of course the link for the PDF is in the description below. Alright, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and again, thank you for watching.